Hello, hello. It is week 5, and we are back to some new material. We can go back to the CAD calendar and see that we're going to be going over sections 5 and 6 of the Lynda tutorials, modifying sketches and reference geometries. So as always, we've got a practice part up on Blackboard. A couple of the features we'll be going over is we've got the fillet command, and then we'll use a circular pattern to create this. We'll do a linear pattern to create this, and we'll use a mirror to create these over here. So as always, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to create a part with MMGS as my units. Here's the finalized part. I'm just going to go ahead and start it from scratch. So I've got MMGS, and I know it might not look like it, but we're going to start with a center rectangle. Rectangles have the pointed off corners, but we're going to use the fillet command to give off these nice cornered corners, or these nice rounded corners. So sketch, top plane, going to go with a center rectangle, and I'm going to dimension it 150 by 200. 150, 200. So now we've got our rectangle fully defined, and now we need to add each of these corners to be rounded off with a radius of 25. And we have a tool just for that. We're going to go to the sketch fillet. Sketch fillet, it's going to ask us for the radius. We want it to be 25. And then the entities, you can either select the intersecting point or you can select two lines and it will fillet them where they intersect. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the rest of these corners, go ahead and accept it. We can see it's got a radius of 25 for all of these, and we're good to extrude it up 75. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you're thinking we could do all of these in one sketch, you'd be completely correct. But for the sake of showing off one feature per sketch and keeping it a little more tidy, I'm going to go ahead and do the rectangle in its own sketch, these circles in its own sketch, and these squares in their own sketch. So I'm going to go ahead now and do this circle. Since we're going to use this circular pattern, I'm only going to start with this one circle right here, and then we'll make a pattern off of that. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch that off. We're going to make it on the top plane. I'm just going to go normal to it. Circle. I'm going to make it vertical to the origin. I know its diameter is 15, and we know it's 30 millimeters from the origin. Great, so now we have this fully defined circle, and we're going to use the circular sketch pattern. We can see here it says we want 10 instances of this circle, 360-degree circular pattern about the origin with equal spacing. That should all make sense once we dive into this. So circular sketch pattern, entities to pattern, it's going to be the circle, and it automatically selected our origin. If it didn't, right here you would just choose the origin as our parameter to make the pattern about, and we want 10 instances of the circle, 360 degrees, and we have equal spacing selected. So we're going to go ahead and do that. One of the odd things about using this tool is it doesn't fully define the sketch once you've finalized it. One thing we're going to have to do is fully define our sketch. So one way to do it is the original one we drew is just dimension the one of the instances that was created from the pattern, and then it will fully define the rest of the sketch. So I didn't add any of these values. I didn't change these values. I just simply dimensioned them in. And these values were created based on the fact that there had to be 10 instances and they had to be equally spaced 360 degrees around the origin. So that's how SolidWorks came up with these values. So we're fully defined, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way through. And we'll go back, get the isometric view, and we'll move on to these squares right here. We can see here we wanted to use the linear pattern. So same idea, I'm going to draw this one rectangle, 15 by 15 in this top corner here. So sketch on that. I'm going to draw center rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and make it 15 by 15. And then follow some of these dimensions. So it's going to be 12.5 from the vertical walls, 12.5, 12.5, and then 20 for these horizontal. So when we go ahead and use the linear pattern, we're going to see something here. Before I do the linear pattern for the center rectangle, I'm just going to select all of this to show you there's different ways of doing it. So I'm going to select all these and then select linear pattern. So that already filled out the entities to pattern option. So now we have it asking how many we want in the X direction. We don't want any in the X direction, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to 1 instance, that way it keeps the original, and then we want it to be 4 in the Y, and we can see this is the wrong direction, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now it's going to ask us for the spacing in between each instance. So we know we have 4, and it's asking us for spacing, but this only gives us these dimensions. So one of the really cool things about the linear pattern is we can sketch it and then define it, and then it will choose a value that keeps them linearly spaced. So I can go ahead and show you that. So we can see these, we want these to be kind of symmetric. So we want this top one to be 20 and this bottom one to be 20. So if we just go ahead and create an arbitrary value and then go ahead and dimension this out from here to here to be 20, not only will it fully define it, but it'll also choose a distance between them that's the same across all of them. So we can go in and look at that, edit linear pattern, and see that it did the math to find out for it to be kind of symmetric for 20 and 20, and 20 and 20, we need a spacing of 31.67 millimeters between each instance. So I'm happy with that, we're fully defined, and now it says to create these, we want to mirror our linear pattern across the center line. So just like the axis of revolution tool, we need a center line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. And then I'm going to select all the entities I want to mirror, use the mirror entities tool. We've already got all our entities to mirror selected. I'm going to choose mirror about. I'm going to mirror it about this center line right here. That's a little preview, looks exactly what we want. Go ahead and select it. We're fully defined. All these relations right here are simply saying symmetric. And I'm going to go ahead and cut through, and we should finish this part up. So it's looking good. I'm just going to go ahead and double check this part. We're going to make it a ductile iron, and then we can check our mass. Ductile iron, and evaluate our mass, 1378981, 1378981. So we're all good. One thing to keep in mind is the Linda videos did go over reference geometries in terms of creating planes. That is a very important tool to have in your tool belt, as it's something we'll use, but it's not being used in this week's quiz because its implementation won't come until later. So it's a very important tool to understand how to use, but it won't be implemented until later on. So this week we just had the fillet, linear pattern, circular pattern, and mirror. That's all we got for this week. Thanks everyone.